following is an exclusive presentation of BYU Athletics in association with BYU Broadcasting. It's time to talk BYU football. You're tuned in to the Coordinator's Corner, live from JCW's in Provo, giving you the inside scoop on BYU football from the coaches themselves, JCW's, the Burger Boys. To lead things off, let's head live to your host, the voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell.
And for the final time this BYU football season, good afternoon, Cougar Nation. Welcome to the Coordinator's Corner here at JCW's in Provo. I am Greg Wrubell, visiting today with BYU's offensive coordinator and QB coach Ty Detmer in half hour number one. Special teams coordinator Ed Lamb coming up in the second half hour. BYU heading off to Hawaii later this week to end the season, a season that's gone to 3-9 so far after a 16-10 home loss to UMass this past weekend. Coach Detmer with me now, and Ty, after a nice step forward at UNLV, bit of a step back against UMass. You didn't see that coming, obviously. Looking back on it, what are your post-game reflections?
Well, we knew they were going to bring pressure and try to, test Joe and see freshman quarterback under blitz. And, we just got out to a slow start. And, we didn't execute real well early in the game. And so it's 3-0 at half. And then we come out and, just kind of stubbed our toe. We had some opportunities with field position and didn't take advantage of those. Had some sacks. I think 7 sacks. Really kind of put you back behind the chains, and we just didn't play well enough to get the win. Our defense played really well. A couple of the turnovers. We had four interceptions, so that doesn't help either. And our defense played well and stood up and I thought played well enough for us to win, and unfortunately we didn't offensively.
Now, sacks had not been the issue this season. In fact, you came into the game fourth nationally in fewest tackles for loss allowed. They get you 7 times. But right after the game, their coach Whipple said, we definitely wanted to see how a freshman did under some heat.
Yeah, I think if you watch the UNLV game, there was, minimal pressure, and he was able to kind of, make his reads and get the ball out, and we ran the ball well, so that took the pressure off of him. That's kind of what I was anxious about going into the game, was we knew we'd see pressure, and how would we react to that. And not just him, but offensive line-wise, running back-wise, everybody has a hand in protection. There were times where we had it protected, and Joe stepped up through protection and took a couple sacks that way. So, it's not usually just, one area of the team that gives up sacks. It's a combination of everybody. And so I think, he learned a lot from that game. As the game went on and we got into our hurry up, I thought he settled in a little better, slowed down a little bit for him. He was really kind of antsy and wound up, you see, with the high throws to start the game. Yep. And went through our reads a little too quick on things. And so, I thought towards the end of the game, he kind of settled down and played the game, and we ended up putting a drive together late, but by then it was a little too late for it. But there's some good things on there, too. I thought he threw the deep ball really accurately, gave us some opportunities, and we didn't make some plays that we had opportunities on down the field that maybe changed the game early for us. And so, we're going to see a similar type of defense this week with some pressure, and I'm sure they'll watch the film and figure they'll test him and see if he's made corrections.
With your quarterbacks, do you review every snap after a particular game together in a room and just kind of go through it play by play?
We do. I think it's good for the other quarterbacks to hear the coaching points, and we type the notes on there, and so they have them for the weekend. And so we try to learn from each other, and the guy that's playing, that's the guy that's got to ultimately learn the most, but the other guys can learn from either their mistakes or their good plays as well.
What was maybe Joe's feedback after the game and then the review of the game?
Yeah, he was down obviously after the game, felt like he could have played better, and same, going into the film this morning, he'd watched it over the weekend and was ready for kind of the feedback from my comments, and so he was good. He knows that there's a learning process here, and he really upbeat after practice today that, hey, coach, I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to work harder, and those are the things you want to hear.
Beyond what he saw defensively from game 1 to game 2, what else was different maybe in his play from UNLV to UMass?
Well, I may have been a little aggressive myself, thinking he was going to be ready after week 1, a little more so for week 2, and so we we came out, wanted to be aggressive and throw the ball early, and had some opportunities, had some guys open that we misfired on, but so I may have abandoned the run game a little early in the second half as well. With we got to get a couple scores here, and 2 scores down, we needed to kind of pick up the pace of play a little bit. So probably that more than anything, we threw a little bit more at him, just with all their man coverage and their pressures. We formationed a little bit more, and probably a little more for him to look at and to filter through as well. So I probably could have helped him out a little bit more on that stuff, but at the same time felt like we needed to scheme him a little bit to give us a chance as well outside.
So you've hit it pretty well there. You threw on 5 of your first 6 snaps, threw 45 times on the day, and you thought that it was there for you. A more aggressive game plan could have fit for him, you thought?
Yeah, I mean, we knew they'd be 7 in the box, a lot of single high safeties involved in the run game, and so I felt like going in we were going to have to throw it a little more, and with the man coverage and things, it would make the run game a little tougher. And so we knew that was kind of the case going in, and that was the apprehension kind of all week, was how are we going to react to it, and are we going to be able to make enough plays in the pass game to keep them honest in the run game.
The picks were all different, Real. I'd like to get your thoughts on these too, but the first one's kind of an overthrow to Matt. The second one, nose tackle bats up a ball that's picked off by a linebacker. Third one is through Matt's hands on a high ball near the goal line, close to being a touchdown. And then the last one kind of hit as he throws, maybe took enough off it that it didn't get to Akile and it gets picked off. That's how kind of I saw it. How do you view the 4 picks?
Yeah, the first one was a lot like the one to Akile later, where he just kind of got stuck on a read and then rushed the throw, and Matt was covered, and the tip ball's a kind of bad luck at times. There's some of those things you can't control. And then the one to Bushman was 4th down, 4th and 20, I think. And you got to give a guy a chance, and I thought he put it in a good spot, give a tall guy an opportunity, and it just went off his fingertips. And that's really a turnover on downs in my book. So, I don't
and you actually got the ball back in better shape folling the next sequence. But,
yeah, it'd been nice to have a touchdown and give us
points.
A chance for a score to win the game at the end. But, so a couple bad reads, couple bad breaks, and the 2, that I felt he forced in there were the one to Matt and the one to Akile on the sideline, where he wanted to work there and it was covered, and he just kind of hung on it and tried to stick with it instead of get off and go through your progression. Same with the one to Matt that was a little high, and that's part of being young and kind of, okay, I think I'm going to have it, and then I don't. I got to be able to reset my feet and get off to the next option.
Meantime, both Joe and Matt make a nice play on the touchdown. You guys score late. Joe puts it in a good spot, and Matt does a good job to shed the defender and get in a position to use his height to make a grab.
Yeah, that's a matchup we like going into the game, and I praised all of our guys on offense that we battled all the way to the end of the game. We scored with 55 seconds left or so, and give us a chance for an onside kick. But, it would have been easy for guys to kind of shut it down and kind of go through the motions the last series, being starting on our own 10. But, the receivers ran hard. We made a couple plays in there that gave us an opportunity to score and to potentially get an onside kick and maybe have a chance to win it late.
All right, UMass did win it by a score of 16-10. BYU on to Hawaii. We'll talk a bit about the Rainbow Warriors later in the program. We'll get your questions for Ty with the hashtag CCBYU. That's hashtag CCBYU on Twitter. This is the Coordinator's Corner, live at JCW's in Provo on BYU Radio, ESPN 960, and BYU Football, Facebook Live.
Okay, that's good.
voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell.
And welcome back into JCW's for the Coordinator's Corner. Greg Wrubell with Ty Detmer, first half hour. Ed Lamb coming up in our second half hour of the show, our final half hour of the season. It's our 13th and final Coordinator's Corner as BYU ends the season, coming up at Hawaii, playing in Honolulu on the weekend. Coach Detmer with me now. And you talked in the first segment, Ty, about maybe going away from the run game a little bit too early in hindsight, but you had Squally back off his big game at UNLV, and you got KJ Hall back, which helped the running back core. You did lose him late, of course, but Squally has been a bright spot for you guys, especially late in the season.
He has. He's run hard and, run through tackles and gives us kind of a downhill burst through the hole that, we've been really pleased with the last few weeks.
Now, he didn't do anything necessarily wrong in that game. There was a sun ball that he had a tough time with. That was really, it was right on the angle. You know the angle.
Right.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Otherwise, he played pretty well.
He did. He had a good game. He ran well, ran hard. We knew there would be some bumps in the run game where they slant or twist into a run, and, that was kind of the thought going in is we needed, if we were going to run it, we needed to be patient and hopefully we could, get a lead and then be able to pound it a little more. And unfortunately, second half kind of got out of that with playing catch up a little bit. But he played well, and I know he's excited for this last one.
And KJ's had a rough go just being in and out of the lineup all year.
Yeah, KJ, brings a spark in the pass game where he's a very viable receiver for us. And unfortunately, he went down late there in the fourth quarter with looked like a knee sprain, and we're kind of waiting to get the final prognosis on it. But he's been a spark for us in the run game, pass game, kind of that all around back for us.
It was a cool day, sunny but cool. Felt like real football weather. And you've been in NFL cities late in the year where it gets cold. For being cold, it wasn't too unpleasant though. It was a sunny afternoon for y'all.
No, I thought it was perfect for the players. They when they're out there running around. For the coaches, they're standing on the sideline. Had to put the little windbreaker on to block the little bit of breeze that there was, but it was a perfect day in Provo.
It'll be a little nicer in Honolulu on Saturday. Challenges of playing in the islands. You've been over there enough to know what it's like. You've taken some really good BYU teams over there, and they'll always get up for the Cougars no matter what kind of season they're having.
They do. They they give us a little bit of what we saw last week with UMass. They pressure and blitz and come from different areas and different angles, and so, that'll be another tough test for us. But they do get up for BYU there, and it's the last game of the season. I'm sure they want to send their seniors out on the right note, as we had hoped to this last week. But, that's always been a tough battle for us with playing in the evening, which is, a 3-hour time difference, and then the humidity and all those things. And I'm even seeing maybe a forecast for a chance of rain Saturday.
That.
So we're all going over there hoping for better weather, and we might get rained on and a little cooler. So, but whatever the conditions are, we got to go play, and they do too.
They didn't show a lot in Logan on the weekend. They lost 38-0, but they've had their struggles in the Mountain Time Zone historically. You'll expect them to be a lot better in their own place.
Oh yeah, they get fired up at home, and on the road they're not quite the same team with a long travel and then the altitude here and colder weather that they're not used to. So I don't put a lot of stock into the Utah State game. I know my senior year we played them over here, and it wasn't near the same type of team as it was the previous couple years over there where they beat us pretty good. So they get fired up, and they'll have everybody in the stands ready to go, and it should be a fun atmosphere.
Give us a sense of your schedule for the week as a team. What's the appropriate mindset to take to Hawaii? It's not a bowl game. You can't say it's like our bowl game. It's really not that. So what's the right way to go over there?
Yeah, it's another road game, another chance for us to finish the season on a high note, allow some of these other younger players that they get another opportunity to prove that they can make it and be a player for us down the road. So it's we get our majority of our work done Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we leave. And Thursday is kind of a quick tune-up type of practice. Friday more of a walkthrough and jog through, and then we play the game. So a lot of players have family over there, so there'll be a little downtime where guys can visit. And I'm taking my 4 daughters and my son-in-law and my wife over. We'll all spend Thanksgiving over there together, which will be nice, but kind of have that game hanging over your head the whole time, knowing that it's still a work week for us.
So with BYU heading over in the situation you're in, you're 3-9, they're 3-8. Neither team really looks at it as like a again, I use the phrase bowl game. It's really not that. But that said, Hawaii gets super up for BYU, and you have to be ready to face that intensity at least.
Yeah, we will. It's a big game for us, I think, to end it the right way and to send our seniors out with a win here. Be able to have a more enjoyable flight home. That's a long flight, red eye back. And then, hopefully to kick off the off season with that in mind and on a positive note always makes things feel a little better.
You mentioned a moment ago young players. At this point, you've got one game left, and Cody Wilstead hasn't played yet. Because there's just one game left, do you not count on him and say you'll save a red shirt, or could you even see playing him in one game and really kind of burn a red shirt, if you will, for one game?
Yeah, we had that conversation this morning, actually, and kind of find out what he wants to do, and he wants to play. If there's an opportunity for maybe some extended playing time in the game.
Even for one game.
If it's, fourth quarter and go in and just either mop it up or kind of limited playing time. I don't know if we want to do that with him. So Coy's got to be on deck and ready to go. So it'll depend on how the game plays out. But he definitely wants to play, and he made the comment that having a redshirt year in your back pocket doesn't always hurt. You don't have to declare that was my red shirt. That can just be a year that counts. So either way, it's kind of nice to have a year to buffer whether you get injured or, if you transfer and then you need a year to sit out because, the rules and things. It's kind of nice to have that extra year. So either way, he should have that year available, but we'll manage it as the game goes on and kind of see where we're at in the game and the need for it at the time.
Fair to say, best case scenario, Joe plays well. You don't need another quarterback, and he goes all the way for you.
Yeah, that is. That means Joe's playing well and things are going good, and we don't have to get another guy in there. So that's the best case scenario.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. Our final segment of the season for Coach Detmer, and you can give us your questions for Ty at #CCBYUCC for Coordinator's Corner, #CCBYU on Twitter. Your questions for Ty Detmer. Back with the coach on our final segment with Ty. Ed Lamb's coming up in the next half hour. This is the Coordinator's Corner live at JCW's in Provo on ESPN 960, BYU Radio, and BYU Football Facebook Live.
Sports Network. Now let's rejoin the voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell.
All right, with BYU's offensive coordinator and QB coach Ty Detmer for a few more moments. Coach Ed Lamb on the special teams, safeties, and assistant head coach is coming up in the second half hour. We go to Cougar Nation on this final segment with Ty. hashtag CCBYU for questions. And this first one coming in from Josh Shimizu, and he says, Ty, could you fill us in on the strength of the returning O-line, including O-line depth and recruiting for 2018?
Yeah, we can't really talk specifics in recruiting, but we've got several linemen committed right now that some will go on missions. A couple will stay here and join the group. We've got a couple guys in the program that are redshirting right now that came off of missions, James Empey and Brady Christensen.
You've also got Tristan Hodge.
Tristan Hodge transferred in from Notre Dame. He's here. That he's not eligible to play this year. So we feel like we've got a lot of good young players that there'll be a great competition this spring for those guys to kind of find out where they're going to fit, and then that should bring added depth for the next year. We'll miss Tooney and Tijon and Kian and their experience they've had, but we feel like the future's bright at that spot with multiple guys that'll compete for starting time, or maybe even have some rotation in there to keep guys fresher.
Those three guys you noted are the interior of the D-line, or the O-line. There hasn't been a lot of rotation this year. Coach Empey's kind of gone with his group, and fortunately for you, they've been healthy pretty much all year.
Yeah, it helps to have that consistency that, at least one of the groups has been pretty consistent. We've gotten Kiefer Longson in there a little bit, Shannon Herring, Austin Chambers. So, there's a good core group there of young players that have just been waiting for their time, and unfortunately, it's good and bad. We haven't had injuries that we've had to play them, but at the same time, it'd be nice to have gotten them in more and got some playing experience.
Yeah. Next question coming in from @TX Colonel. Ty, what hopes should fans realistically have that next year will be better? Are you looking for tweaks to the system or an overhaul?
Well, I think tweaks to the system. I think the experience our young players have gotten this year, it will be very valuable for us. And we'll go out as coaches and I'm looking forward to doing some development with other schools and see just how we can kind of tweak things to give us more opportunities. Whether it's in the pass game or run game, and then we're adding a few players. There's some guys that are redshirting that came off missions that'll play, revive for playing time next year, and we'll get some guys back. Joe Tukawafu, who's a guy that we had to sit out this year, transferred in from off his mission from Utah State.
Tight end.
We've got some guys in the program, and Moroni will be healthy, and we feel like we've got some added depth coming and some playmakers that, we're looking forward to getting them on the field and seeing them and getting the whole package there healthy and ready to go again. So we lose very few players on the offensive side. So that experience, again, with some tweaks to the system and things that we feel like we can do better, will go a long way next year.
Do you see going after any JUCO playmakers?
Potentially. I mean, we're always looking for guys that can, come in and add to BYU here on and off the field. And so, we got to do our homework with those guys. But, that's always an option for us to try to find a guy that can be a playmaker, make a difference. 2 years ago we added, Andrew Idy and Kian Norman were graduate transfers that came in and really helped us. And so we're always open to having those opportunities for guys that could come in and make a difference for us.
How about at quarterback? You've got Joe and Cody. Coy's still with and Bo Hodge still around. Do you look to add to that group, or do you say this is our group and we're going to move forward with these guys?
We've got some young guys coming in. Jaron Hall's coming off a mission. Again, we've got other guys in the pipeline that we're recruiting.
Your nephew is.
We've got some guys in the pipeline. Yeah. I'm not allowed to speak specifics.
That's right. And has he? It hasn't. Well, signing won't come till later. So we can't talk about his name.
We can't talk about him until after they're signed.
He's committed, but he hasn't signed. So we can't talk about those kind of guys. Yeah.
And possibly looking at JC, depending on how Tanner heals up and all those things. Those are always options as well. That we're exploring all opportunities right now, and we feel like guys are getting experience, but we also need to make sure we have depth after this year. That's always going to be a concern.
Meantime, Joe's given you a good start to the spring or the off season by what he's done so far, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Getting playing time. Obviously, this game will be big for him. How does he rebound after last week's game, and where do we go from here? And so we're anxious to kind of get going in spring ball. I know Cody's anxious to get out there and be able to compete. So, we'll have great competition at that spot as well, and we'll see where we end up come first part of August.
All right, from Craig Hershey on Twitter, #CCBYU. What adjustments do coaches need to make to better prepare players for next season and beyond?
I think our off season will be big. We're already discussing how we can, give them more in the off season, more scheme and more practice time, for them working on scheme. In the past, it's been a lot of workouts and just getting stronger and faster and then spring ball. But I think as coaches, we feel like we've got to give them more in the off season, more specific things to be working on, and they have a lot of player run practices and those types of things that if we can kind of outline a schedule for them going into that, then they can be better prepared for spring ball, and we can have a faster start going into the season next year.
Okay, from Ty for Ty, this from at TyRog14, Ty Rogers his name. What can the coaching staff do or are doing to hold on to recruits during the struggles of a season?
Yeah, I think, the conversations we've had with recruits that are committed, they're excited. I think they see an opportunity to come in and potentially contribute early, knowing that, we've got some work to do. So, the guys I've talked to have all been real positive and strong in their commitments, and we've got early signing day this year for the first time, December 20th, I believe. So
how many guys come in then as opposed to February?
Well, it just depends. I mean, we're hoping that all the guys that we have committed would sign then and be locked in, and then we can, then focus on, some of the numbers and the guys that we have that are up in the air and really focus on those guys. And then they'll know which, who's coming in with them and those types of things. So it's an added bonus. The more we can sign early, the better it'll be for the whole group.
Do you see the early period supplanting the later one as the most important one, do you think? Does more bang happen there?
I think so. Your hope is that the guys you have committed are firmly committed, and if they are committed, then they'll sign at that time. And then you can figure out numbers and how many spots you have left after that you need to fill. And there's always going to be, some of the top recruits probably on the fence that are still uncertain or haven't committed to anyone yet that you're targeting, that you can put a little more time and effort into at that point.
All right, we'll give Ty the closing comments for the year now. Your look back on, we're only 12 into 13 games here, but your look back kind of on the year and what you hope is next for BYU football on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think, like I said, the experience we've gotten with some of our players, you look at Micah Simon, Aleva Hefo, Matt Bushman, Ula, all these guys are freshmen, sophomores that have really gained a lot of confidence and experience that I hope they can take that and become leaders of our team in the off season, and then our young linemen are getting bigger and stronger and they're chomping at the bit. So it's up to us coaches to detail it and prepare them and have them ready to go, because with our schedule we're right out of the gate every year, and it's tough. So we're going to have to be ready to go right from the start and jump right into full game mode when we come back in August. And the hope is that, guys are bought in. They're a great group of young men that are willing to work, and I know are not happy with where we're at either. And we'll put the time and the effort into it to make us go. And so as us coaches, we gotta have a plan ready for them, and we can, find some tweaks within our systems that'll help us going forward.
Well, looking ahead, of the offensive touchdowns BYU scored this year, none were scored or have been scored by seniors. So you bring back a lot of people that hopefully do good things for you next year.
We do. We're excited about that group. We're going to miss the guys that have been here and helped us along the way. But as every year, you've got turnover, and we're looking forward to the group that's coming back, and they're excited as well.
Well, Ty, thanks for the season here on Mondays, and good luck in Hawaii.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, that's Ty Detmer. Ed Lamb is next on the Coordinator's Corner here on BYU Radio, ESPN 960, and BYU Football Facebook Live.
For over 100 years, the sporting Christian
of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell.
All right, thanks to Ty Detmer, BYU's OC and QB coach, for our first half hour on our last Coordinator's Corner of the season. Greg Wrubell here now, joined by BYU assistant head coach, safeties coach, and special teams coordinator Ed Lamb. Ed, good to see you for a final time this year.
Thanks, Greg.
Does the season seem like it's flown by to you or called along to you?
Both. I think it just depends the context that I'm thinking of it in. You know, on a rough season like this, we certainly want to have all the opportunities we can get to try to get things turned around. And so from that perspective, it's gone so fast. In other ways, you know, it's been a long season and trying on our players and coaches, and you know, looking forward to an off season where we can spend those types of times rebuilding. You know, I was just talking to our staff a couple of days ago about you know, that we have a process of off-season cut-ups. We make cut-ups of all of our calls, offense, defense, special teams, go through them, and it's so much easier to be more critical in the off-season when the pressure of the impending next game is gone. And I'm looking forward to that time. I think we're going to learn a lot more in the coming weeks than we know about ourselves already.
It's a season that will end without BYU having had consecutive wins at any point in the year. And it seemed like after UNLV, there was a real good chance to springboard with a few wins to end the year. It didn't happen. Why do you think there was the step back against UMass looking back at it?
Well, we need to make plays. You know, they're just those were some missed opportunities out there. And you credit UMass for playing hard, but we had some plays where we tried to push it down the field. Going into the UNLV game, coming off of Fresno, for example, you and I talked about hitting shot plays, and we didn't hit enough shot plays against UMass in order to get the ball in the end zone. From a defensive perspective, we didn't get any takeaways, and from a special teams perspective, we got the ball. They muffed a punt that we had a chance to recover and didn't get it. That could have been a big play, turning point in the game, and then we had the onside kick opportunity, and it was our second of the year. And like I told our players, a good team ought to be able to get about half of their onside kicks opportunities, and we're 0 for 2. So, you know, those are hopefully games don't come down to one or two missed opportunities, but that one did, and we did not make the plays.
Shot plays. First play of the game, you go to Jonah down the BYU team boundary. If you go back and look at that play, did you see PI when it happened again? It seems like I ask you the questions like this. Yeah. I'm not trying to get in trouble with the official, but did you see what we thought we might have seen in terms of something they could have thrown the flag on that first play?
I did. That could have been called, but I also saw what the officials saw, and the stride, Jonah's stride wasn't broken. And typically that's kind of the training point that they look for. If it's a gray area, they look to see if the stride of the receiver is broken. Jonah had his stride. He had an opportunity to catch the pass. The contact was more up on the shoulder than in the arm area, and so he deliberately decided to let the contact go. And the thing that I was pleased about with the official is that he articulated that well. You know, I mean, we were upset. It could have been called. It could have been a big opportunity to get out early and get some momentum, but that doesn't change the fact that there was some gray area there. He went to his training. He articulated what he saw, and right or wrong, he wants to make the right call.
Good explanation. There was another shot play, different situation, but a 4th and 20 for BYU, play you have to make, I guess. And it's a ball that Matt's got a shot to bring down, high ball, but a tall guy like Matt, you send, let's go get it. It
was in both hands. He would tell you the same thing. That's one that he expects to make. It's one that he's been routine about making. It was in both hands without any tip from the defense. It was, like you say, a high point ball, and those aren't easy to bring down. But he did all the plays. You know, 99% of the play is the finish. And even though it only lasts for 1% of the play, that's the part where we failed.
But so generally reliable has been Matt Bushman, a true freshman who set BYU's freshman tight end records already, and he's among BYU's best ever freshmen at any position in terms of catches and yards. He'll be a good one.
He will, and right now, I mean, to be fair, he's a wide receiver. You know, he lines up at tight end and matches up in that way. But he's one of our best wide receivers, and I mean that in a positive way. Sometimes tight ends, you know, the interpretation is with a tight end he's not as good of a receiver. He's one of our best receivers, or maybe our best receiver.
Your top target,
yes,
by far.
Yes,
and but yet ultimately, he'll get bigger, stronger, stays a tight end. That's what he is. He'll be a tight end for you.
I think he has tremendous potential in the tight end area, and obviously, he needs to target his body weight to get up into the 250-plus range next year, and his strength, and then develop that part of his game a little more. That's very difficult for an athletic guy like him coming straight from baseball to be that big and strong already. It'll be a confidence factor, and that comes with weight room.
You have more defensive than offensive oversight, but that said, tight end position is one you hoped would be deeper this year than it was, and it just wasn't for a number of reasons. It'll get better next year.
It will, yeah. The injury to Moroni really hurt us in that area. We felt like that those two guys would really offer a lot, and then we'll add in the blocking ability of J.J. Nwigwe and Tanner Baldry. But when Moroni went down, then that left us with just one target out there. And when we got into tight end sets, we weren't as versatile as we probably could have been.
You kind of recapped a few of the high points from your areas of responsibility in the first segment, but I want to go back to special teams for a moment and talk about the breakout game it was on punt return. Michael Shelton, I think it was double-digit returns on all 6 that he had. It was 6 for 86, and I think he was 10 or more on every return. So it was a big game for you guys that way.
It was, yep, a big spark in that way. And again, going back to some previous conversations we've had on the year, I told you that sometimes a good punt returner will just take a defensive stay. A defense is out there just to make sure the ball is kicked, and they return it. And we didn't keep our defense out there. We had some assignments, but his longest return was actually a punt pressure. We had pressured it, and UMass stayed in, kept a couple of guys in to protect it, and then the guys that went down and covered weren't able to make the play on them. We picked up a couple of blocks late, rallying back kind of like a defense would on interception. So just a lot of credit to the guys on the field doing their role, whatever that happened to be, and a lot of credit to Mike Shelton, and not a lot of credit to me on that one, other than putting the right guys on the field, because it wasn't necessarily that we had any type of guru punt return scheme. Their punter gave us an opportunity, put a couple of low trajectory kicks out there, and
got to
our guys
quickly.
were better than theirs.
Player made plays. All right, we'll take a break. More from Coach Lamb coming up. On our second segment with Coach, it is the Coordinator's Corner here at JCW's in Provo. Questions for Ed, #CCBYU. We'll get to those later in the show. We're live at JCW's for the Coordinator's Corner on ESPN 960, BYU Radio, and BYU Football Facebook Live.
Picture this. You have a big change in your life and you need to move.
Rejoin the voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell.
Final Coordinator's Corner of the season. BYU at Hawaii coming up. Saturday. It'll be the 7 o'clock Mountain Time kick with a 5 o'clock Mountain Time pregame. Special Teams Coordinator Ed Lamb with us here for our final half hour of the season. We hit Michael Shelton before the break, but the special teams in general on Saturday against UMass, you had a really good day.
It was one of the top days. I thought the coverage teams were outstanding. We didn't get our usual kickoff hang time and placement out on the kickoff game, but the coverage guys went down and covered like crazy. Got them right near or inside the 25-yard line twice. And then the punt team, our guys compete for tackles on the season on punt coverage. And Johnny, it's been weeks since Johnny gave anybody an opportunity to make a tackle. He's had great hang time and ball placement. got one out on what we call a cross kick, and that's a fairly high percentage for us on tough fielding for the opponent. Some teams will use 2 returners, and they put their second best returner to our left. And Johnny put one to the left this week, and it was a single returner system, but he had to rally to get over there, put the ball on the ground. That was a missed opportunity there. I wish we would have got. And the punt return team just worked incredibly hard. They have been working hard for weeks. It's been an area of emphasis for all of us, and it was great to see that team get going.
Zane downed one deep and almost downed another.
Yeah, he had one at the 3-yard line, and then the idea on that and the coaching, he knows he's done it well. He had a all-time training film against Southern Utah last year where he caught one on the 1. But it's the same rule as a wide receiver in college football anyway. The pros is different, but in college football, if the coverage guy will establish 1 foot in bounds and make a clean catch, then that'll be downed on the wherever he last touched in bounds or wherever he caught the ball in bounds and first touched it. And so on the second one, he just kind of was trying to figure out where he was at on the field and trying to figure out whether he needed to bat it back. And looking back on it, he should have just caught it.
Johnny Goodday punting. Rhett Almond makes a 40-yarder and has made 60 consecutive PATs now. Unfortunately, not a chance for field goals or PATs on Saturday against UMass.
That's right. Yeah, weren't enough. He delivered when he was called upon and did a great job with it. The protection on that play was really good. The snap, hold, and kick was really good, and that was the message coming out of the game is, hey, keep delivering when your number's called.
Yeah. 3 straight games, BYU hasn't scored in the first quarter, and 6 times in 12 games they've been blanked in the first 15 minutes. Now, Coach, you guys have coached 25 games together here at BYU. You've led after the first quarter just 6 times in 25 games, but you're 5-1 in those 6. No-brainer, get the lead, score early, and hopefully carry it to the end. But the slow starts have been something I know you guys want to remedy here.
They are, and that can be, I think, one of those things where the more we emphasize that to the players, the more pressure that we can put on them and get a negative impact. So it's not. I don't think that's always on the players. It's in my experience, it's definitely not on the pregame speech. It's a lot of times there's certainly a little bit of a luck factor as you come out and calling the right plays against the right defenses and getting some stops and field position on defense and special teams. But in the end, the voice I always try to bring to our coaching staff when I have those opportunities is that it's us. It's not the players. It's us. And, I come from a school of coaching. The first coach I worked for had a saying, we can beat theirs with ours and we can beat ours with theirs. And, we have to approach it like that. And our players need to know that we have that kind of confidence and that kind of approach.
When you look back at this season, where will you say that that the genesis of the difficulties maybe began, if didn't continue throughout the season? What do you kind of look back and say, well, this was maybe the main thing that we had a struggle with or a trouble with in 2017? Does it come down to something like that, or is it just way too many things with too many weeks and too many oppositions to overgeneralize?
I'd like to be more prepared to answer that. Right now, I'm kind of thinking it through as I'm talking.
And you're in it as well. You've got a game.
And we are. Yeah. We're in the thick of it, and sometimes it's hard to see the trees while you're in the thick of it. It's each week there's definitely been something clear, and we've talked about many of those from week to week as we've talked. But I think overall, certainly we have got to have consistency in quarterback play and the ability to run the ball not only efficiently but often. And we haven't done those things well enough this year offensively. Defensively, to be a good football team, we have to be in the plus in the turnover margin, and we have not been there this year. There's been a dip in our ability to take the ball away on defense.
After a big year last year that way.
After a big year last year. And a big part of that is close games and leading close games and making the opponent stretch a little bit and to get takeaways. But defense can and has the opportunity to get takeaways at any time, and we haven't done that, and we haven't been as strong as I'd like to be on third down defense. That's another time when a lot of takeaways happen. The opponent has to stretch on every third down if the game's anywhere close, and we haven't got it done in those areas. And then consistently our return game in the special teams is an area that we can supplement field position, and I think that in the second half of the season it's been much stronger than the first half of the season. Yeah. But by the second half of the season we had a team that really was lacking confidence as well. And I think going back into the first half of the season, I'd really like to see more dynamic play out of that area, which I'm directly responsible for. First
things you hit, quarterback consistency and then run game volume, if you will. Both came into play in the UMass game, obviously. Yeah. Joe had a tough day after a really nice day in Las Vegas. but his throw volume was well up, and Squally and the carry volume was dialed back against UMass.
Yeah. Yep, and I haven't paid attention to the down and distance and situation calls coming out of the game. That's more of a general observation on my part. So it's hard.
Third and 9.4 was the average on Saturday, which is a season high. Tough to win at 3rd and 9 plus.
Yep, tough to win and tough to have confidence to run the ball on 3rd and 9. So, I'm sure there were some opportunities there. Ty said it to the team this morning. Felt like that he took it upon himself, the blame of not running the ball more. We ran the ball efficiently. I think we're over 4 yards a carry. With our running back position, and that's, defensively, if you give up 4 yards a carry, you feel really, really poorly. If the team will run it 50 times and put up 200 yards on you, and so we feel like that 4 yards a carry is a good target, and we probably should have ran the ball more. Ty would know more about which situations where he would have wanted to run it more. I haven't studied the specific down and distance scenarios.
Yeah, but a good run game in Vegas had BYU averaging about 7 or 8 yards per first down. And that number was dialed back to about under 4 this past week against UMass, a rather lower number. We'll take a break. We'll come back, and your questions for Coach Ed Lamb in our final segment of the season coming up. It is #CCBYU on Twitter to chat with Coach Ed Lamb on the Coordinator's Corner. We're live at JCW's in Provo on BYU Radio, ESPN 960, and BYU Football Facebook Live.
Picture this.
Let's head back to JCW's in Provo and the voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell.
All right, so we are back for our final segment of the season on the Coordinator's Corner. Mondays, 12 to 1 all season long. We've been here with BYU's coordinators, our special teams coordinator, Ed Lamb, with us for the final segment in this season as BYU gets ready to play Hawaii in Hawaii on the weekend. Before we get to UH, Joe Critchlow, I kind of think of him as your guy since he committed to you at Southern Utah. His second start, not as good as his first, but what do you see or have you seen from him that bodes well for BYU's quarterbacking future?
Well, Joe's got the demeanor that I like as a quarterback. I like him leading the team. I think he never gave up in the game. The team never gave up on him. We put him in situations that he wasn't ready for. There's no question. He's to drop back pass in third and long situations and second and long situations is just not that's not what he's been prepared for. He's only been taking repetitions at a meaningful level for less than a month in practice, and he was just not ready to carry that much of the load. That showed in the fact that he didn't get rid of the ball, had some sacks. Sacks are always on everybody on offense, as Ty, I'm sure would tell you. It's receivers getting open, offensive line picking up blocks, backs, etc. But I feel very confident about his ability going forward. The team around him has to rally. He's at some point in his career, he may be a guy that can can drop back pass in tough situations and carry us to victory, when the rest of the team's not firing on all cylinders. But we need to have everybody firing on all cylinders in order to be successful this week.
Not sure exactly what the quarterback situation will look like when you guys reconvene, say, in the spring. Does Joe, has he done enough to give himself like kind of leader in the clubhouse status in terms of a guy you look to kind of head the way in next season?
I think this game is this week of preparation, and this game is going to be the telltale on that. If we had ended on this week, I think we have to say, at the end of this season, Joe, you were not ready to carry the team on your back, and it's always the job of the coaching staff to look for a guy that can put the team on his back at quarterback, look for a running back that can put the team on his back, a linebacker on defense. At every position, that's the criteria. We have to open up competition to find those guys. And so the only time that a guy would be an unquestioned starter is if he's shown that kind of ability, and he hasn't shown that yet. He's shown a ton of promise. We're super happy with him. We're excited about him, but he needs to show this week that he can lead us to 2 out of 3 down the stretch on victories, and that would be a heck of a run for this season.
Okay. You say it's on the coaches. At the same time, players have to make plays. Jeffrey Butler on Twitter asks you, how does the coaching staff hold players accountable for mistakes that should have been learned or rectified?
Oh, yeah, really good question. So our, every day for us begins with our correction meetings. For example, Monday is the correction from Saturday. Tuesday is the correction from Monday practice. And the day always begins with that. So the first thing the players do when they report is report to our team meeting room, where we go through special teams and overall team corrections. Coach Satake may talk to them about just maybe how the sideline demeanor or being ready to play, things like more of a general level. And then I get up and I talk about specific special teams corrections. I show video. I usually have a group of clips of, say, 15 to 20 clips from the game, try to go through them as quickly as possible. Then we break up into offense and defense, big picture. Then we go into position groups. Each one of those meetings has a very specific cut-up, and we have a software program where the coach's notes actually show up so that it can be read by the players as we're coaching it. And the players get grades as well. So that's how corrections are. We're big into public accountability, and so we want to meet together, and we want to point out both the good and the bad for each player so that we can inspire them to continue to perform well and correct what needs to be corrected.
You mentioned a moment ago an example of something Kalani would talk about being sideline demeanor. Is that a real-life example? Has that been talked about? And is that the kind of thing that really comes into play in the course of a season with a team?
Absolutely. Yeah, it does. Sideline demeanor, we can take it a number of different directions at different times during this season. Kalani has talked about sideline demeanor from those who don't play and what they can bring to the game. And he's talked about sideline demeanor from those who are playing in the game but maybe aren't on the field. And that's another type of sideline demeanor. For example, what the starting offensive guys are doing while the defense is on the field and what the starting defensive guys are doing while the offense is on the field. You'll notice if you pay attention to it that in a tight game down the stretch, offense or defense will quickly make their adjustments and say, okay, thanks, coach, I'd like to watch the game. And they get up and watch the game and cheer on their teammates. That's a big part of being a winning team, and it can't be something that's falsely manufactured, but I think just bringing awareness to it, Kalani's done a good job of that. And then there's the type of sideline demeanor from players as they run on and off the field with confidence and aggressiveness. For example, after a turnover, does our defense, blame the offense and go onto the field lackluster and disappointed, or are they excited for another opportunity to play defense? And all those things from a head coaching level, they should be addressed, and they are addressed.
I would presume there's more to address in a 3-9 season than 9-3 season. That would be apparent. But overall, how do you think this team has dealt with the situation they're in at 3-9?
Well, I think the team. I just don't look at it in those ways very often, Greg. I mean, when we ask guys, let me say it this way: I believe that coaches get what they emphasize, and I think when we make our messages clear, and when we ask for specific things, we always get those things. And so, in any way that our players may have failed, on the field, off the field, sideline demeanor. It's, I tend to think of it first as a coaching issue, as an emphasis issue. So it's hard for me to answer that question when you frame it in reference to the team. I feel like the team has done everything that we've asked of them, and I feel like that it's really us as coaches that need to work, determine where we're at, where we have come up short, and how we can get better for these guys that we're obligated to coach to victories.
Your approach is very top-down.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's not going to change. It doesn't sound like it's going to be on you or on the guys in the room. You think the coaching room?
Yes. Every time it should be. I've learned that the hard way. As I said, it can be really difficult when we're right in the middle of the season, when we're working so hard, doing everything that we can. It can be difficult to be critical of ourselves. The players are the same way. There's so much to be learned when we look back in an off season and some of the pressure is off, and we can really be critical of ourselves. That's really difficult, I think, for anybody in any field of work, is to really see what we lack, to have the self-awareness to see what we lack clearly. But I think as time goes on, the best leaders are able to have maintain their self-confidence, but also realize where they've been at fault in the past.
Maybe 30 seconds on what you expect and or hope from this weekend in Hawaii.
I expect the players to show up and give their all to that game. It's I really have talked to the specific guys that I'm in charge of already. This is not about where the game is at. Hawaii is a vacation destination, but not when we're playing a football game. And it would be the same if we were 12-0 right now. This is a game. We're on a business trip, and we have the rest of our lives to go and save money and try to get to Hawaii on vacation. And as far as I'm concerned, St. George or Provo, Utah in the summertime is just as much fun as Hawaii. So there is going to be no relaxation for me. It is all about the game.
All right, for Ed Lamb, I'm Greg Grubel. Thanks for tuning in on the Coordinator's Corner this season. Ed, thank you for the season.
Yeah,
all right, we'll talk to you next season on the Coordinator's Corner on BYU Radio, ESPN 960, and BYU Football Facebook Live. So long from JCW's.